This is a very special day and an opportunity it is for us to have the GO, that's the General Overseer of Omega Fire Ministries, with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Apostle Johnson Suleman. So, Apostle, how are you?
Yes, good to see you for the first time, yeah.
Yes, for the first time in a when it's not texting or phone.
Or phone
first
or
time.
WhatsApp and all of that.
So, what brings us here today? The proposed Karma bill. We've got 10 questions for you, and it has to do with the proposed Karma bill. So, I welcome you.
Thank you very much.
Let's start with this. Who, in your opinion, is a man of God?
Who is a man of God?
Yes.
Whatever I say, definitely, it's my own opinion, which is just a segment of thoughts, but it's going to be scriptural based, you know. We are all equal. You must understand, first of all, when we are saved, we are all equal in God's sight. All of us. The Bible says in Colossians 3:25 that God is no respecter of persons. The same thing in Ephesians 6 verse 9, that, you know, is no respecter of persons. Okay, so we must understand that. If you read Romans 12:10, it says there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek. The same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. And Romans 2:11 repeats the same thing, that there is no respect of persons with the Lord. And there's something very direct in 2 Chronicles 19, I think verse 7. He said there are three things God will never do. God will not take bribe, which is called gifts. God will not partake in iniquity, and God has no respect for persons. But the NIV used the word, there is no partiality with God. Everybody is fair before God. But when you talk about being a man of God, the Bible says in Hebrews 5:4, nobody takes honor to himself except he that is called of God. A man of God is one who is called. And his calling can be attested to by the people he is impacting. So being a man of God, you know, today our idea of a man of God is somebody on collar, like you that is wearing the t-shirt now, or I wearing this. We will not be generally seen as a man of God, because there is a religious mentality that has beclouded people. We have more of religiosity than scripturality. So people believe. So a man of God is one called by God, sent with a specific message to a specific people, with the interest of their welfare at heart, not to impoverish them. He has the welfare at heart, with a living conscience. You know, in Acts 24 verse 16, he said, I try so that I have a conscience void of offense towards God and man. And Paul was talking to us in Romans 9:1. He said, my conscience bearing me witness in the Holy Ghost that I lie not. So three things define a man of God. He must have a message. When you are a man of God, that we cannot define your message, something is wrong. You say you're a man of God, rather. Number two, he must be focused on the welfare of the people. And number three, have a living conscience. That is my ideology of who a man of God is. Not necessarily somebody who leads a congregation.
Absolutely. So by your definition, it seems that a pastor and a man of God are two different things. A pastor is a shepherd or a teacher, according to the French word pasteur, where it was originally gotten from. Whereas a man of God can be a man of God without necessarily leading a congregation. According to your definition, it is possible for someone to lead a congregation as a pastor, because a pastor is like a teacher. The word pastor came from the French word pasteur, someone who pastures a sheep, like a shepherd, without actually being a man of God.
100%. 100%. Somebody can claim, to lead a people. Anybody can lead a people. Anybody can lead a movement. Revolutionaries lead movements. Social rights activists lead people. So that you lead a group of people doesn't make you a man of God. Your calling must reflect in their lives, in their conduct, in their relationship with people, in their welfare, and in their growth. So anybody can.
Before we go any further, you seem to hammer on this welfare. I just want to ask you a quick question. With regards to your congregation, how important is the welfare of the poor in your congregation to you? How much of a priority do you consider it?
The essence of gathering together, the essence of congregating, the essence of people becoming a unit, as it were, this physical, numerical formation, the essence of that is for welfare. In Acts chapter 6, if you remember, when the church was increasing, their concern was not the number, but the welfare. Actually, it became a burden to them. The bigger your church, the more trouble you are getting into before God. If your membership is increasing, you are in trouble. So you must have a structure that takes care of the people. James 1:27 said, the religion that is not defiled is one that takes care of widows, of strangers,
and orphans,
and visit them. So church, having a congregation without taking care. For example, in our church, I have something I do. Most of the graduates who are waiting for jobs, who don't have jobs, many of them, I put them on salary, pending when the jobs will come. We had a widows program. Now there are about 221. Not all those widows had their husbands die in the church. It was about 5 of them or 6 who had they lost their husbands. So I said, no, we have to cater for them. So when they saw what we are doing for the widows from other places started coming. Now there are 221. I pay them every month. And I've been feeding them for the past 11 years every Thursday. You can do an independent investigation. Every Thursday they gather. We give them bags of rice. For 11 years, I've been doing that. So my concern, my joy, my happiness is when I see a member of my church that dresses good, that looks okay. It gives me joy. If you're not dressing well, you're in trouble. I'm going to ask you. I said, do you have clothes? If you say no, I'll give you money. I said, you are not representing me well. If people see you outside, they're going to insult me. So take this. So I do that a lot. So my idea of church is welfare, body, soul, and spirit. You can't claim that you are preaching a gospel that will help people not to go to hellfire, but they are going through earth fire. There is earth fire and there is earth fire. Before you talk about eternity, how will they survive in this world? They could be so frustrated and they'll put their hands, into evil. So it's important that the welfare, to me, when you talk about church, what I think of is welfare. What I think of is welfare. That's what I think of.
Absolutely. You also made a statement. You said there's no partiality. That also brings me to Acts chapter 10, Cornelius and Peter.
Yes, verse 34.
When
Acts
Peter, after seeing, when Peter, after seeing the ministration from heaven, now said, now I finally know that there's no partiality.
No partiality with God. Verse 34.
Among men of God, pastors and their congregations, there's always this notion that a pastor is superior to the congregation. Okay. Since you've touched on that no partiality and equality, also seen in Galatians, in the book of Galatians, there's no more Jew or Gentile, no more male or female, we're all one in Christ. Does this scenario represent the current Nigerian church, where you see people lying on the floor sometimes so men of God can walk over them, where people carry men of God on their shoulders? What's your take on this?
Let me say this to you. When it comes to religion, people are very emotional. You can't separate emotion from religion. That doesn't make it right. I try my best to be very careful, because if you criticize a man today and he makes peace with God tomorrow, you'll be in trouble. So I try my best to be very careful. But I cannot. I think I've seen few videos of pastors walking, over people and all of that. To me, I think the pastors who do that are illiterate. They are scripturally bankrupt. Because that's why I say I'm going to handle it from two dimensions. That you are called to lead people doesn't give you opportunity to take advantage of them. But also, don't forget, there is a way a man would have affected people's life. And they just feel like, oh my God, this one is a demigod. It's now left for him to tell them, no, I am not what you think I am. When you hear people call a man of God father, daddy, my father, my this, you cannot totally condemn that, because when the biological father has not been there for the member, the biological mother kicked the person out. It's like you, for example, somebody in Free Nation, the parents abandoned them, the parents kicked them out, and you pick them, you nurture them, you grow, and they felt you feel the vacuum of a father in their life, and they call you daddy. I don't see anything wrong in it if you have earned it. If you have ended, what I feel wrong is when people are impoverishing people, people are, mutilating people's emotion, taking advantage of them, and they are still giving honor. I feel there is a problem. If you want to be respected, you have to earn it. Walking over people, carrying them on the shoulders, I think it's not the right thing to do. We must be very careful so that we don't go into extremity. Because you remember one time, when they were honoring Paul and Barnabas, they gave them even Greek names.
Acts chapter 14.
They gave them Greek names. And they scream and say, we are not God. You must be very careful. Two things.
They wanted to slaughter sacrifice for them.
Two things that we must be careful about are commendations and condemnations. We must be careful about commendations and condemnations. Don't take both of them. If you take condemnations, you are going to be depressed. If you take extreme commendations, you are going to become a demigod, and that will become idolatry. So we must know how to put such things, we nip them in the box so that it does not go into extremity. I think the problem we have is extremity. Ministers of God who are honored, ministers of God according to Hebrews 5:4, who have earned it, who have earned honor, should be honored, but not worshipped. They should not be worshipped. It is very wrong. That's idolatry.
Fantastic. What's your perspective of order in God's house of worship?
I think order to me is the mother of progress. Order is the mother of progress. You see, when Paul was talking to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 14 verse 40, he said, I'll come. Let everything be done decently and in order.
In an orderly.
And he was talking to Titus 1:5. He said, I'm coming to set the things that are wanting in order. Even when King Hezekiah was to die, Prophet Isaiah said to him in Isaiah 38:1, he said, set your house in order, for you shall surely die. Even wicked men understand the place of order. In 2 Samuel 17, if you read verse 23, after Ahithophel discovered his counsel was rejected, the Bible says he went home, set his house in order, and he hung himself. That was a wicked man that knew the importance of order. So order is very, very important. Order is the mother of progress. You see, nothing sponsors order in the house of God like structure. There must be structure. And you must allow everybody who is given an assignment to have a freedom. Like, for example, when I give people assignment in church, I give them, a mandate. I don't interfere. I do not interfere. I have no right to interfere. When we do that, order in finances, and nothing sponsors order like accountability. When you know you're accountable, you are very careful. When people have become the lords of themselves, they become the lords to themselves. They have nobody they report to. They have nobody that cautions them. They have nobody that calls them to order. Once they take a step, no one can order their stop. You know, when they get into that kind of lifestyle, then there cannot be order. Order, where there is structure, or that thrives on the premise of structure, or that thrives on the premise of accountability. The ambience of accountability is what conveys order. That's my idea.
Now, we're going into this year has been a very rugged year. There is no way we can run away from that. And it seems that every month brings a new level of ruggedity. The Karma Bill. Is the church supposed to speak up in times like this, or is the church supposed to accept what the government is saying without comment?
No. The church cannot. I will say some things that may not be emotionally correct, but scripturally. I believe in scriptures. I believe in scripture. That's my life. So anything I say will be scripturally backed up. The church is not supposed to take everything hook, line, and sinker. Anything that is at variance with the doctrine of God's word, everything that is at variance with the doctrine of sane leadership, the church cannot keep quiet about it. If you check the days of Christ, most of the issues he had, he always had a brow with the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Sanhedrin. Now, it is because the leadership of that day was a religious leadership in Rome among the Jews. That the leadership of that time was a leadership that played around religion. That is why it appeared that there were certain things that happened that were scripturally inclined. But there was a time he said, go and talk to Herod, talk to that fox. Herod was the leader of that day. Christ was not in agreement with him because of certain doctrines and certain style of governance that were at variance with the word of God. So the church can only line up with it. Don't forget, the Bible says in Proverbs 24:24, he said, he that says to the wicked, thou art righteous, him shall the people curse. He said, nations that bore him. In fact, the NIV said, nations should resist him. You know, in Proverbs 28 verse 4, he said, only the lawless praise the wicked. So when leadership is oppressive, there's something in governmental law called social contract. Social contract tells us that the citizenry, or the state rather, provides security, protects the citizenry, gives them security in exchange for their loyalty. Once there is a breach of that trust, the citizens no more owe the state loyalty. It's the law of social contract. So when people are being killed, the law has been breached. When lives are being taken, when people can no more, let me tell you something, Freeze, travel from Lagos by road to Abuja. You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. There is legal illegality. There is illegal illegality. Legal illegality is the illegality perpetrated by those in uniform. They will collect bribe from there till you get to Abuja. The illegality are the ones who carry guns and say they are headsmen. So the church is supposed to speak up because lives and property. The church should not be political. Being political, as far as I'm concerned, is being partisan. It's taking sides. The church should be fair, very fair. When the leadership is right, when they get it right, the church should applaud them. When they get it wrong, in all my criticism, as it were, in quotes, I have never insulted the person of the president. He's old enough to be my father. So why will I insult him? I have never insulted his person, but I've criticized the style of governance. We must learn to separate issues from people. So we can criticize the style of governance without criticizing the person or desecrating the office of the president. So the church must speak up. As a matter of fact, it is the duty of the church to speak up and cry out against oppression. And I think the church in Nigeria is doing just that.
Okay, more directly on karma, do you agree that there is mismanagement in church funding among quite a few pastors. Is there any way the proposed Karma bill could bring regulation and sanity into that sector and to stall further mismanagement of church funds?
Well, let me first correct something. It's actually not a proposed bill. It's now an act. It has been passed into law. Yes, it's not more a proposed bill. It's an act now. It has been passed into law. So it's no more a proposed. It's not something they are intending. It's been passed into law. That's why we are crying. We will not be crying this much over something that's an intention. Now let me explain to you. Karma, the Karma Act has been in existence all along. What they have now done is to amend and bring appendix to it. The National Assembly, they have, it has passed first and second reading. So it's no more a bill, it's not an act. So what I'm saying is that the reason you see the church, did you notice the church never said anything then? So anybody that says the church is anti-karma, they are just being economical with the truth. That you don't like pastors, or you don't like Suleman, or you don't like Oyedipo, or you don't like Adebo, it doesn't mean you will see obvious injustice and support it. That your father, that a man's father died drowning, doesn't mean you will start drinking kerosene. You understand what I'm saying? So we must see injustice and call out injustice. The reason we are crying now, let me say something to you. The initial, Karma Act has been in existence, and it has been working. There are many pastors that I speak to you now that are in jail. You may not be aware because it's not in the media. One of Bishop Oyedipo's pastor, one of Fulabi guy, was reported to the EFCC, and Karma took charge of him. He's in detention. So our cry is not, that is why when people say, oh, they are talking about money, such people to me are very majestic and myopic and microscopic mentally. To think that we are crying out because of money. Which money? There is a section that says that they have a right to suspend the church account. I didn't cry over that. I'm not weeping over that. There's a section that tells us that they have the power to suspend bank accounts. Now, even though that is wrong in its entirety, all shades of wrong, we are not discussing that because that is an issue that we will sit and discuss. We can have a discussion on that because it's extreme to say you can suspend. You have to let us know on what grounds can you suspend. Because if we don't discuss that, you can just wake up any pastor that doesn't speak well of the government to suspend his account. So we can discuss that. But the one we are saying we are not even ready to have a discussion about at all is for you to say you can change board of trustees. You cannot bring 3 or 4 imams to become members of my board of trustees. They have no knowledge of ministry. They don't know how churches run. It doesn't make sense. And you can only do that when you fund. Let me give you an instance. People are clamoring. Some are saying in America, they regulate charity organizations. In London, they regulate charity organizations. Freeze, I have churches in 68 nations. I can tell you how each nation operates their law. In America, it is 501c3. You register under that. That's the act that controls charity organizations. And it means that once you are registered, you are tax exempt. You don't pay tax. If you buy anything for the church, so long as registered, you do not pay tax. But that gives the IRS in America opportunity to audit your accounts. The government will be fully interested in what happened. Even at that, they cannot bring a board of trustees to oversee the church. I don't know if you are getting my explanation.
I'm getting you.
What I said is this. If now people are saying that the government in America, the government in London, they have right to control churches over there and charity organizations, that is very correct. But also, if a government wants to start a race, they have to go the whole hog. The government in America respects freedom of speech. The government in America respects human life. The government in America are providing jobs. So if our government want to sound like civilized people, in the UK, you can choose not to. It's a choice. You can choose not to. But the truth is that you will not enjoy the benefits that the government give. And if you don't enjoy all of their benefits, they cannot audit you. For example, I have churches in the US.
What are the benefits?
Okay, for example, you can apply for grants. Like during this pandemic, there are churches that were giving $100,000, 200. If you can confirm that your people are stranded, your church, for the past 3-4 months, you could not pay the rentals and all of that. They give you what they call forgivable loans. Forgivable loans. It's just called loan in cloud because you don't pay back. The government will give that to you. You can apply for grants. You have a lot of benefits. So it gives them the privilege and the leeway to regulate. Even at that, they don't change your board of trustees. They don't do that. Let me say this to you, for everyone who is hearing me. Let me say this to you, freeze. This will shock you. This attack or this so-called act is not against the church. It's against NGOs. It's not against the church. Many pastors you see today, one phone call to a governor, one phone call to a senator, they cannot press them. They can't. My father and the Lord was with the president yesterday. He was with the president yesterday. Dajadebe was with the president. The vice president was there in the meeting. The secretary to government, that's the level of influence he has. It's not actually a target. It's the NGOs we are crying for. Is it me, somebody who change my board of trustees? Who is the person? Who? You come and change board of trustees? Who? You can't try that. But some of us, we will slug it out. We'll fight it out. But there is this young man who runs an NGO. He can't cry out. They will oppress him. There's this young man who is standing there. Because let me tell you the attack. Some of these NGOs, they are getting foreign grants. So the government are uncomfortable that these people, they feel these people might be sponsored to stir up revolution, to stir up uproar and uprising, and they are very well funded. It's not a church. Nobody can stop the church. That is the truth. So what I'm saying is that if we should be careful so we don't give a laughable and a depreciable narrative. What we are doing now in the law, there's a balance that says violenting non-fit injuria. Is a balance in law. Violenting non-fit injuria. You cannot consent to an injury and turn around to claim damages. That is why the church is crying out. We can't fold our hands. It's also called the doctrine of latris and acquiescence. It's like sleeping over your rights. That is why we are crying now. If somebody legally, if somebody offended you 2 years ago, and you go to court 2 years later, you have no case. Where have you been?
Yeah.
Where have you been?
Yeah, I understand. It's like a husband cheats on a wife and buys her a car.
Exactly.
And then everything is settled. And 4 years later, she wants to divorce, say he cheated on her.
Exactly. She has no case. So that is why the church is crying at this point. And let me tell you, I'm going to say this to you clearly. What makes me laugh at the act is you are telling me that you can do it and I have no right to go that I have no right to go to court. You are doing that because you know you are wrong. You know you are wrong. So what is justice? What is democracy? If you can oppress me and I cannot seek justice. So my concern, why I called it an illiterate bill, how can you pass a bill into law that has no respect for the law? So to me, that is my worry. So that is why I'm laughing.
From that point of view, to me, I might not call it illiterate. I would rather say unscholarly.
Unscholarly,
because it is unscholarly, actually, to... Anyway, talking about the law, the scriptures are very strong on obedience to the governing authority, be it the king or whoever is in power. We have Romans chapter 13 from verse 1, Titus chapter 3 from verse 1, 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13. These instill into the believers the necessity of obeying the law. Now, what do you think about the reactions, the warnings, the curses of some pastors regarding towards the government regarding the bill. I understand that if you're unhappy with something, you can go to court, you can speak out against it, there's freedom of speech. But the person will die, thunder will fire this person. What's your take on that approach, especially coming from the church, since there is scriptural instruction for us to obey authority?
All right. Let me say something. You quoted Titus 3,
yes.
verse 1. Okay, you see, sometimes we do not take a text out of context. When we take one text out of context, when you take a text out of context, you can con anybody. So, okay. If you read verse 9 of that same Titus, it said, controversies concerning the law, questions, maneuverings, resist, desist,
yeah,
avoid. Now, in Acts chapter 5, verse 29, Peter said, we must obey God rather than men. Any governmental instruction or injunction that is against the word of God, we will resist it. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not endorsing curses and all of that. I am not even qualified to answer your question because at times I am guilty of it. So I cannot.
Even me too.
Yes,
maybe
I cannot,
not curses, but insults.
Yes, I can get upset. I can get angry. Don't forget that men of God are still men. They are still human. They can still react. They can still be emotional, especially when they are seeing what they perceive as a glaring injustice. They react, even though it's not expected, but they react. I can get so angry when I feel offended. Don't forget that no matter how anointed we are, it does not totally eliminate our temperaments. You must understand that. It does not totally eliminate, but we have to rather nurture godliness, nurture perseverance. We need to have this template of self-control. I am better now than I was before. You can attest to that. Before, I was all out war. You know, I come from a religion that doesn't take nonsense. If you steal anything, we'll kill ourselves, we'll die. But when I became a believer, I began to understand that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. I was guilty of all of that
powers and principalities.
Yeah, so I began to nurture. So I'm not totally going to blame these ministers of God, in as much as it's not right, you know, but they are emotional. They are very angry, especially when we see a total deviation. People are being killed. People are dying. There is hunger everywhere. So much loan is collected, and somebody is coming up with a bill that, okay, they want to change board of trustees. Like, how is that the immediate problem of the nation? How is that the immediate problem of the nation? People are dying. And trust me, a few of us have been marked, especially somebody like me. If they come up with certain things and we allow them to do it, a few of us have been marked because they feel we are confrontational. I'm not confrontational to government. I pay my tax. I paid 4.6 million. If I hate government, I won't pay. My wife paid 2.1 or so, or 2 million, 2.1. If I do not believe in government, I won't pay. But I'm saying the fact that I believe in what you're doing, I believe I should support government. Government should equally respect my rights. You should respect my rights. That is what we are talking about as a church. The church has never been anti-government. Never. We built schools and hand over to government. There was a time, I think I did send you a picture of a major federal road that I was working on.
Yeah. I remember.
Do you know,
that.
let me surprise you. Do you know some senators and some other people, one or two of them, called me and warned me that what am I trying to do? Am I trying to prove that I'm more sympathetic than the government? I answered. So you can see certain people who are in leadership who are against the development of the country. You say such a person, I should not drag him, I should not call him out. The road has been bad for years and is not being fixed. Now the church is fixing a federal road and you are sending me messages to stay clear and not to touch the road. I shouldn't fix the road. That I'm trying to take credit. What credit am I taking? My members plowed that road. Churches plowed that road. It's a federal road. In fact, the government uses the road more than I do. So you can see certain people those are the people we can even call anti-government. Those who are against the welfare of the people. So the church can never be anti-government merely because it's speaking out against the ills of governance.
Absolutely. Because if we're democratic, the government is for the people, by the people. So if the government is taking decisions that are anti-people, then those taking those decisions are actually anti-government.
Anti-government, because those are the ones who actually those are the ones who are actually fighting the government. You know, I don't have a problem. Let me tell you the major reason why it appears. It's like you and I, for example, when you had no access, and like I told you, I said the major reason, I'm sure God never wanted us to have issues. That's why I did not see some of the videos that you did, because I don't trust myself to be able to hold myself not to react. So most negative things about me in the media, I do not read them, I do not watch them. Now, the fact that you can reach me now, when you have certain disagreement, you can reach me. People will feel that it's a compromise. Oh, why is he not attacking you? And you say, why can I attack somebody that I can talk to? I don't know where you bank. Let me tell you something. I don't know where you bank. I don't know. There have never been monetary exchange between us. But there are people that have convinced themselves. They have convinced themselves that money has changed hands. There is nothing you will tell those people. They have sold that lie to themselves that, for this person, for these two people to talk to each other, there must have been money. And I ask them, what am I giving Freeze money for? He has never asked for it. As a matter of fact, let me say something.
Don't get tell them that I was hungry.
Kind of private. Let me tell you, this is a little bit private. Don't be upset. When you were doing your father-in-law's burial, and we were talking, and you said you are quite busy because you are preparing for the burial. I offered. I said, please, can I support you? You kept quiet. You said you want to talk to your wife. And I noticed you cleverly never brought it up. And I brought it up a second time. I said, you are doing your father-in-law's burial, and you are building a house according to the Igbo laws and traditions. I said, it is important that I support you. You said something. I'm going to say this to you. I don't agree with everything you say. You don't agree with everything I say. But there are elements we notice in ourselves that make us relate. You said something that you cannot be condemning pastors taking money, and behind you are collecting money. And I got offended. I'm not going to lie to you. I was asking myself, I don't understand. Am I bribing you?
Yeah.
You know, something like that. So you said that. We just laughed over it and it ended. There has never been any monetary exchange. But there are some people who have forced themselves to believe that depreciable narrative. It's in their head. It's in their head. But the reason we can talk is because when there are things you don't understand, you call me, say, this thing, I know support. And I say, okay. And I told you something the other time. I said, the day you stop preaching what you said God has given you to preach because of me, let's stop communicating that day.
You've said that many times.
I said, if you have a message, please don't allow my relationship with you stop your message. And I'm not going to allow my relationship with you stop what I believe. That is what Paul said. He said, when I see a brother, I look for where we have common grounds. Common grounds. You believe in helping the poor, I believe in helping the poor. You believe in speaking against injustice, I believe in speaking against injustice. So there are common grounds that we have. You believe in transparency, I believe 100% in transparency, 100% in honesty. So that is where we have common ground. So what I'm trying to say is that people should not think that government, there are many things that the ministers of God do for government that are not brought to the fore. So we can never be anti-government. We can never disobey leadership. We can never.
Absolutely well put. Now, there's another thing you and I both agree on. There is very little, or let me not say very, there is little freedom of speech in Nigeria. I personally can attest to that. We cannot compare Nigeria of today to Nigeria of about 8 years ago with regards to freedom of speech. People are counting their words, even bloggers are counting their words, down to radio stations. This interview, for instance, would have been wonderful for me to have it with you on the radio station that I work with. But I'll rather just have it recorded and if anything explosive is there, we know that we will not air it on the radio. That, in my opinion, is not right. That is
No, it's not.
undemocratic.
It's not. Absolutely
in my,
wrong.
Humble opinion. Now, do you see this karma act, because it's no longer a bill now, as you said, it's an act? Do you see it as a subtle way in which the government could further stifle the voices of the people by this time around, instead of gagging blogs and journalists and radio and TV stations, but this time by gagging the church? Do you see that this could, in a way,
you know, I said something initially.
A government act to stifle the voices of the people?
Yes, I said something initially. If you listen to me, I said it's not targeted at the church finances. When it comes to finances, this act is not targeted at the church finances. It's the NGOs whose finances will suffer. But it is targeted at the church voice, okay? Not to make them talk. For example, let me give you this. Let me divert a little bit. 2013, 2014, 2012, I was very critical of the Jonathan government. I was critical. I spoke against them. I said against them. I was never threatened. I was never arrested. I was never questioned. In fact, I said, Jonathan, I gave a word. I said, you are the last PDP president. That was what I said then. I was that vocal. I said all kinds of things that warranted arrest. I was never arrested. I was never arrested. As a matter of fact, let me surprise you. A senator told me that I should meet with the president. I met with the president. I told him to his face, I said, your leadership is bad. And guess what he told me? He said, pray for me. He never said, what did you say? You know, so if you watch Nnamdi Kanu also said something one time that what Jonathan did that helped him was that Jonathan ignored him. That's what the man said. But this government, let me say this to you, that the phrase, any government that keeps arresting people for speaking up is merely making people popular. They are raising so many people. They are making stars out of people. Because intolerance, anytime there is intolerance in government, is on the premise of complex. Because by the time you arrest anybody for speaking up, it will definitely attract sympathy and it can start a movement. You attract sympathy from the people and start a movement. So, and you must know something. There is a thin line between freedom of speech and hate speech. There is a very thin line between freedom of speech and hate speech. So you must be very careful what you call hate speech. Let the people speak. A government that is democratic, that can be termed democratic, is a government where the wishes, the views, and the voices of the people are not stifled, are not crippled, are not stopped, are not regulated. In as much as we must be careful so we don't desecrate governance verbally, we must also be free. The judiciary has been gauged. Presently, there is no respect for court orders. Journalists are living in fear. Journalists are living in fear. Now, most of their presentations are being doctored. They are careful, you know, because they could be picked. NBC could slash a fine on them. Anything could happen. So they are very careful. But that is not what happens in a sane democratic society. That's not what happens. People should be free to speak. So this law, now they know pastors have the following. They have the crowds. They have the clouds. So what do? Let's bring something. For example, let me say this to you. If you change board of trustees in a church, those board of trustees will determine what the pastor says. They can tell the pastors not to be critical of government. They can tell the pastor to support a particular political party. And every true minister of God or servant of God or scholar has to be non-partisan. You have to be non-partisan. Say things the way they are. So I think that this is also an attempt to stifle not just the voice of the church, but the voice of NGOs, charity organizations. It is a major attempt to stifle their voices so that they cannot speak out or they cannot say things as it is when push comes to shove. That is what I think.
Okay, absolutely wonderful. I'm glad you brought out the church's involvement in politics, because over the years, the church, especially in the last few years, the church has been involving itself with politics. The church, some churches appear quite partisan. What's your take on this?
Like I said, no true church should be partisan. You are not partisan. When leadership gets it right, we should commend them. Okay, there was a time I tweeted something on my Twitter handle. I was very upset when I saw the names people were calling the president. I was very upset. The man is 79. The man is 79. He'll be 80 soon. So I was very upset. I said, no, this is wrong. Let's not abuse the person of the president. Let's speak up when the style of governance, we consider it oppressive, we consider it repressive, then we can speak up. Oh my God, that day I got insulted, I got abused. People felt they were disappointed. Some said I've been bribed, because as far as they are concerned, let's call him out. You know, we live in a generation of trending. We like to follow what is trending. Let's call him out. Let's drag him on this street. What is it? Apostle, I'm
Let's drag
disappointed
him like
at you.
Tiger Generator.
They say, Apostle, I'm disappointed at you that you can say this. I said, no. So if I'm partisan, I wouldn't do that. There are times the presidency has gotten it right. I commend them. When they renamed the stadium after MK Abiola, I felt that was triumph for democracy. I commended them, you know, and all of that. But when it's wrong, we should speak up. So I do not advise any minister of God or any leader of a church, religious leader or scholar, to be one-sided or to be partisan. You know, we are not. We are beyond that. Because in our churches, you have a congregation that is encompassed with all kinds of people, all kinds of political party. I am open to everybody myself. I'm open to everybody, every party. But I'll tell you that when you get it wrong, I will call you on the phone and tell you you are oppressing the people. If I keep talking to you and you refuse, I'll call you out.
Some pastors lead very opulent lives. We can't run away from that, while their congregations suffer. Here's the thing. I don't see why I would work hard, especially when I have a job outside running the church, and not be able to buy myself a Louis Vuitton shoe or a Rolex watch, you know, or a convertible car that I'll be driving and be happy with myself. I don't see why. However, some pastors live very opulent lives in contrast to their congregations, and many of these pastors are funded by the congregations. They own schools that members can't attend, for instance. Isn't this an opportunity for the government to have a say, especially when the lifestyle is funded from church proceeds? Because if you build a church school, there is no way you would say that church money did not enter inside the church school. Now, when you have a church school and even the pastors of your church cannot attend, because I'm privy to quite a bit of information, let alone your poor congregation. Isn't this what Karma should be all about?
Okay. I think your points are very salient and valid, but there's something that's not, I must correct.
Okay.
That's why I was nodding when you were talking. God will not be angry with me if I have businesses that have no church fund. I became a millionaire at the age of 19. I became a millionaire at 19. My father gave me a car at 17. I was born into a wealthy home. Okay, not every pastor might be privileged to have that. At the age of 19, I would join trailers. I would go to the villages and buy cocoa. You know, cocoa produce, this cocoa produce.
Yes. Yes.
I would join them. I would go to the north and go and sell. I was a millionaire at 19. Before I got to 24, I've given 11 of my friends cars. I bought cars for them. So I've seen money. So I'm not in that crop of that. 3 things I tell everybody who is called of God. When they come to me, say, I feel God is calling me to ministry. I say, sit down. 3 things you must do. Marry the right woman. I tell them, because if you marry wrongly, you have no ministry. You end up in misery. Marry the right woman. Number 2, I tell them, have a source of income, because when members know that you don't depend on their offering, they will respect you. And I tell them, number 3, make sure your life is about taking care of the poor. Let me answer your question directly. God will not be angry with me if I have businesses that has no church fund. There's a difference between somebody gets money from church and start a business. There's a difference between somebody gets money from church and from the proceeds of people's giving, you now start. That is totally wrong. But when you get funds from somewhere outside the church, you start a business, and God gives you a Midas touch, the business prospers and flourishes. If you want to buy a phantom Rolls Royce, go and buy it and enjoy your life. If you want to buy any vehicle, go and buy it and enjoy your life, because it is not from the church. But God's anger, the anger of God, is when you dip your hand into the church fund, directly or indirectly, stylishly, anyhow, and you fund a lifestyle. Let me tell you, when you talk about opulence, most of these ministers of God, I'm close to them, and I'm going to shock you now. I am close to many of them. A Pastor E.A. Adeboye, anybody can listen to this video and pick the parts they don't like and insult and abuse. It's very okay. A Pastor E.A. Adeboye can never put his hand in church coffers and go and buy a private jet. He won't do that. I'm close to him. It is the people who are close to him. Let me tell you what happened one day when we were in service. They were talking about roofing the new auditorium of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. And when they mentioned the amount, 25 billion, where I was seated, I screamed. I said, Lord God. I kept quiet. One man in the crowd sent a message that they shouldn't worry, that he would take care of it. 25 billion. When the man said it, I'm not going to lie to you. I turned to somebody on my left or my right. I said, that guy must be a criminal. They have to investigate him. 25 billion? Where did he get it from? Where did he get the money from? I was talking to people around me. They said, you calm down now. I said, what do you mean I should calm down? This guy will put the church in trouble. Where did he get the money from? And what is 25 billion? We can't just collect any money from church, because some of this money might be fraudulent. But my brother, when at the end of service I saw the man, I was ashamed of myself. I was ashamed of myself, because it's somebody, I'm not going to call his name, he's well known in the country. That money means nothing to him. He felt he was giving it as a free will offering. I see nothing wrong in that. But when the pastor now takes that money and diverts it for personal use, then there is a problem. So most of these pastors who live such lives, like for example, why I'm not going to be critical of a pastor who has a school that is expensive is because I need to know, if you are paying 1 million, 1.5 million, 3 million, 2 million as school fees, I want to sit with you as a student. What are the privileges? Do they give you free laptop every semester? Do they give you free iPad every semester? What are you paying such money for? DBA, Dynamic British Academy, is a school run by my wife. It has British standard. It has a sister affiliation with a school in London, and that's what's a sister affiliation with a school in Lagos. The particular school in Lagos that also has affiliation with this school, they pay 1.9 million in Lagos. Can I tell you how much they pay as school fees in our school?
How much?
30,000 naira.
No way.
Investigate it. 30,000 naira. If those students talk, you will strain your ears. If those students talk, you will strain your. If those students talk, you will strain your ears. They are so British. I had to call my wife one day. I said, "Come, This is Nigeria now. These children, I'm not hearing what they are saying. The British accent is too much. He said they are following the British curriculum. Now, the money they pay as fees cannot even pay the teachers. I have to take money from another investment every month to balance the salary of the teachers. I don't know if you are getting my point. But why I can't be totally critical of other pastors is because what are the benefits the student? Of course, school fees should be moderate. It shouldn't be outrageous. If you are building a school, the first target, the first beneficiary of your school should be your members. The first beneficiary should be your members before the church and the body at large. But the reason I cannot give a blanket statement to say it is evil, it is wrong, is because I need to meet with some of the students of such institutions to say, please, do they give you guys laptop every month? Do they give you iPad every month? What are the things they give to you every month? I need to know what they give to you every month that you benefit, so that I can now come out and say, they are giving them free iPads every month. They are giving them free laptops every month. Please calculate this thing. It's almost 1 million. But if it's just education, if it's just what other institutions give, then it's all shades of wrong. It is very wrong. It has to be affordable. It has to have a charity mindset. You have to run that school with a charity mindset. Give the people the best. We have people coming from all over the place, bringing their children. You know, when they had that, in fact, when I said it initially, people insulted me in the media. He's just running his mouth. He cannot maintain it. Let him start. Let us see. Let him start. And this is 5 years I'm running it. This is 5 years I'm running it. You know, 50, what was it called? 30,000 is less than $100. It's like $60 or thereabouts. Maybe 50, 70 or something.
Yeah.
It's less than $100.
$70, $60, $70.
Yes, it's less than $100. That's what they pay as school fees for 3 months. So we should commend people who are doing it well and not focus on the ones who we feel are not doing it well. Why not we also commend those who are doing such things and tell those who are not doing things like that to learn from them? You know, so that's what I see. I think I should be more optimistic than pessimistic. Let me say this to you about opulent living. The first jet I ever had was given to me by 2 people. Now, these 2 people are people that lived, one of them lived in my house. I trained him, I took care of him and all of that. He went abroad. I'm not going to mention the country. And he was working in a company. And the owner of the company was an elderly man that had cancer. And the man had an only child. As a Nigerian boy that won't focus on his work, he fell in love with the girl, you know, and was having a relationship with the girl. The man died and willed everything to both of them. Now, this guy is in his billions. And he will call me once in a while. I said, do you need anything? Now, I want to ask you a question. This is a boy in whose life I invested. I was like a father to him. His parents abandoned him. I invested in his life. I did all that for him. I'm this practical, this sincere, and to paint out this scenario. If a boy like that tomorrow decides to start taking care of me, you say I should reject it? I will not reject it because I blessed him. I'm not going to reject it. So long it tells me this is for church, this is for you. And actually, 90% of what they even give to me personally, I still put it back to the church. We have 4 auditors in the church. We have 1 auditor from government. He works for the state government that comes to audit our church account. Why?
So your church account is audited
for 4 years, the past 4 years. For the past 4 years, clean.
Wow.
For the past 4 years, we have 4 internal auditors. But you know, if you have internal auditors that you pay monthly, they can do your bidding. They can see error and cover for you. So we needed to get an external auditor that is beyond my control, that if I'm wrong, and every time the auditor asks them, how does your pastor survive? Because I see all the books, there's nothing like outflow to pastor. What are people doing? How does he survive? How does he feed? How does he take care of his family? And they say, no.
So there is nothing that comes from the church to you personally.
Yeah, Do they have? Do they have enough? You are talking of coming to. Do you know the crowd we have? Do you know the crowd in our church? It cannot go round. The money cannot even go round. Why would I be thinking of my own when the one coming cannot go round? It can't go round.
So why do people believe that when they stand? Because I've seen your services. There was one you had in a stadium.
Yes.
There was nowhere for people to even stand. So
Yes.
how do people, when they watch from home and see such a mammoth crowd, not believe that something that this pastor is making something inside this thing?
That is why I said you have to be called. It's a calling. People just take a part of it. Let me give you something. There was a particular video, one short video. Somebody, I was calling for money. I said, if you have 100,000, you can have 20 people that can give 50,000. It was in a particular program. And somebody took that and did a video. Say, can you imagine? Suleman is ripping off people, is taking people's money and everything. Actually, what happened in that video was there was a lady who somebody was threatening to take over the land in which on which she built a house. And the person said that land was sold to him, that the woman needs to bring 5 million naira before he will let it go. So I came out, I said, I'm giving 3 million naira to support her. I need people who can give 100,000, who can give 50,000 to join. So the person took just the part where I was calling for funds and did not bring out the full story and made a video out of it. So I kept quiet. I called those media people, the media people in that place had the program. I said, when this man finished making a fool of himself, release the full 4 minutes video so we can mess him up. I was a journalist now. So we can mess him up for this nonsense that he has done. So that is exactly what's going on. And that is why when they see a crowd of people in church, they call them gullible. All of them are gullible followers. People that know a man to his house, you are calling them gullible. You that is judging the man by just 2 minutes video, you are the sensible one. This man, they know him to his house. They know his family. This man gives them money. That if I said this to you, I come to church every day with at least 1.5 million naira apart from offering a tithe. Why? After service, there is a queue that they have not eaten. Sir, they are about throwing me out. Oh. Sir, I'm a widow. Sir, I'm this. So I keep giving. I keep giving. So when there was this lockdown, this pandemic, see, it was my happiest time in life because I saved a lot of money. I was telling my wife, I said, can life be this good that 1 month we are just, I saved a lot of money. So when they were talking about opening the church, I was worried. I said, oh, these people again, they'll start harassing me. The particular Sunday the church was open, somebody told me, he said, Daddy, you know, for the past 3 months, you have not given me anything. So
talking about the pandemic,
all of that.
Talking about the pandemic, many pastors went against the government during the pandemic. Some claimed there was no COVID-19, that the government was only trying to install 5G, and that's why there was a lockdown. In the same vein, many refused to obey the instructions of the government, while others were inciting their congregations against the government. This I personally see as unhealthy. If I don't have freedom of speech, I can't work on the radio. If I don't have freedom of speech, I can't preach my gospel because my gospel will have to be tailored to the laid down gospel or I shut up. So I am 100% in favor of freedom of speech. However, when freedom of speech becomes insightful and it becomes dangerous to the population, there were 2 particular pastors, I don't want to mention their names, because if you notice from this year, I've not really focused on pastors. I realize that I've been preaching the same message for 1 year. We want to move the message forward. I cannot move it forward if all I do is point at other people preaching their own. So I was like, you know what? I'm really going to look away and just face my own calling, which is preach what is being revealed to me in the spirit that supports the scriptures. But there were 2 main pastors whose names I wouldn't want to mention, who were just going against the coronavirus. Yes, you see, sometimes the problem with the coronavirus is it's a novel virus. Nobody really knows. Today they'll come and say wear mask. Tomorrow they'll say don't wear. Next tomorrow, they'll say it's sexually transmitted. Then the following day, they'll say it is not. Everybody's trying to understand it. So there'll be a lot of contradictions, even from health officials. Some people come and say hydroxychloroquine is the medicine. Another set of people say hydroxychloroquine killed my husband. So some pastors capitalized on this and created chaos, and also incited their people against the government. Do you think this is one of the reasons why the Kama Act is now or was pushed the way it was pushed? Do you think this is also why the social media bill is being pushed with such aggressiveness? Because in as much as we want freedom of speech, how do we, like you said, there's a thin line between freedom of speech and hate speech, especially when it comes from churches that have mammoth following. I'll give you an example. The helicopter crash that happened in Lagos. Celebrities with followerships of 10 million were tweeting that the pilot was a hero because he emptied his fuel tank. You can't empty your fuel tank in a Bell 206. It is impossible. And if he had the time to burn the fuel, he had the time to land.
Yeah.
So it was utter nonsense, and not just from celebrities, from journalists. So the problem is these people are spreading misinformation. Now, the celebrity I'm talking about has a followership of 10 million. Imagine the followership of a major geo in Nigeria. I can easily say active, not social media 10 million. I can say 10 million real on-ground followers. Now, misinformation in the hands of those people is not just annoying, it's dangerous. Do you think in that regard the Kama bill will be useful?
Okay, now you talked about their outburst, during the pandemic and all of that. You know what the Bible says now in 1 Corinthians 13 verse 9. We know in part and we prophesy in part. So in part, most of them, I spoke with one or two people who I felt, okay, you have this narrative. It is what is revealed to you. That was the way they understood it. I will not be critical of somebody who comes out to give a narrative the way he understands it. If you disagree, state your own different adverse opinion. If you say this is wrong, come out and say what is right. Let me tell you, when the lockdown started initially, pastors were not angry. If you remember very well, I was one of those who told them to shut down the place of worship. I shut down. If you remember, we spoke about it. And I told you I support what the Anglican is saying, because we need to understand what is going on. We don't know what's happening. But when there was partial lockdown and they said people can travel, you will see people moving from Lagos to Enugu over 8-9 hours, 18-seater bus, fully packed. We say, what is going on here? You see people go to the market, crowded. People go to the bank, crowded. That was what started getting preachers agitated. That, why are you not stopping these people? And people are making excuses for them. Say, oh, can you do without food? We must go to markets. And can you do without traveling? Can you do without banking? I said, these people are just anti-pastors and anti-church. In as much as I understand what is, I later understood what was going on, the most of the reaction, if you watch what the pastors were saying, the pastors were saying, even the pastors you are talking about, one of them was saying, people are going to the market. People are going to this. Their reaction was against the partial lockdown. They were saying, if these people can be discongregated, why not you allow us meet in church? We can observe social distancing and all. When I hear people say, of course, you can worship God in your house. You can serve God in your house. You can do church in your house. But the Bible says in Matthew chapter 4, verse 16, talking about the Lord Jesus Christ, the Bible says he went into the synagogue as his custom was. As his custom was. So who are we following? Is it not Christ? As his custom was. So we must have a balanced gospel. In as much as those who are worshiping in the house, worshiping online are not wrong. Those who are congregating are not equally wrong. So we must have a balanced gospel so that we don't become extremists in what we do. I do not support pastors inciting. Like I said, I am not an authority. You know, I'm not too qualified to answer this because once in a while, I do say things that may appear inciting because my wife has sat me down and say, please calm down, tone your rhetoric, calm down. You are too harsh. I know you are angry. I know you don't like, because right from my school days, I've hated injustice. Anything injustice. I was SUG president in my school. And part of the reason I went for that election, even as a Christian, was because I wanted to fight injustice. I shut down the school one time for 2 months. I shut down the school because they increased school fees, rather. I shut it down. I said, nobody's coming to school until you bring down. So the activism has been in my blood all along. I hate injustice. So when I speak, sometimes the rhetorics might be wrong because I have to remember, oh, you are not an activist anymore. You are a pastor. So you are leading people. You must tone down the rhetorics and all of that. So the pastors who did that, I'm happy that some of them, you know, retraced their steps, some came to correct it and all of that. But as at the time they did what they did it on the premise of the information that was made available to them. And that is why I totally do not fault them, because that was the information. And that was why they were saying it with so much passion, you know, because that was what was available. So when they came out and say, oh, this and this is not what I think it is. Like, I have not done proper knowledge of the 5G. So I cannot condemn who is upholding it. Neither should I condemn who is, you know, opposing it. I have not started, like the Kamal Act. When it came out for the first 1 week, I didn't see anything. I was going through it. I was studying it. When I found out it had a premeditated intention, I said, this thing is wrong. I'm going to speak against it. This is not right. You cannot tell me not to go to court, because how do people seek justice when you are trying to guard the judiciary? I will not support it. So the Karma, I have no problem with the Karma Act if only they lift up certain clauses. And that is why I said to pastors, let's stop talking. Let's approach the National Assembly and say, don't tell us you can change board of trustees. If it's accountability, put it out there. We are up for it. If it's financial audit, put it out there. We are up for it. If it's transparency in our funding, put it out there. We are up for it. But to say you can now appoint board of trustees that will now tell me, you now bring an imam, for example, that will now become a member of my board of trustees. He will now tell me that no, serving God is not standing. We must not pray standing. We must put our head on the ground. Come on, I'm not going to take that. You know, so especially if you have not been known to have led or managed anything well. A government or a leadership that has managed its resources well, managed its security apparatus well, you can come and talk to the church and manage us well. If you have not been known to manage anything well, you can't come and manage us. That's my idea.
Thank you so much. You know, initially, this interview was scheduled for 45 minutes. We've done nearly 1 hour, 30 minutes, nearly double.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Yes,
wow.
We've done nearly double that. A lot of people a lot of wise people would say, okay, no wonder Daddy Freeze likes this Apostle Suleman, because he's different from other pastors. One, he's reachable. Two, he is ready to discuss logically. However, most people will still go and say, Daddy Freeze has brought his friend that he has collected money from. His friend. Why is it Apostle Suleman that he brought? Why didn't he go and bring pastor of House on the Rock or Bishop Oyedepo? Why is it Apostle Suleman that has given him money? Thank you for addressing it in earlier on. That luckily for me, because I don't see any reason why you can't support me if I'm in trouble. Thank God I've never been in trouble, and thank God I'm not hungry. So the need for me to even ask you, or the need for you to even offer me, never arose in the first place, except the instance where you mentioned earlier on.
No, the problem with them, let me say this, let me talk about it. The problem with people is that people see life from the color of their minds. They do not believe anything can be honest, you can be totally sincere. They are corrupt. So they think everyone is like them. So no matter, explain till tomorrow. They will say they staged it. Both of them staged it. They decided to agree. That's what they want to say because that's who they are. They are corrupt. So they believe everybody's like that. So you can't blame them. And there's no need, we even respond to all of that.
Because in all fairness, to a large extent, I agree with what you're saying. I want karma for accountability. I want karma for transparency. I want karma from preventing men of God inciting their people against the government, especially when you have two very powerful men of God on two different government sides. It can lead to a civil war. Look at what happened between the Hutus and the Tutsis in Rwanda. So I understand that. However, if it is to gag the pastors from speaking out against government, when freedom of speech is concerned, especially when the government is doing something wrong, if that is their subtle intention, then I don't agree with it. If you like, hate me. If you like, say I've collected money. As long as the subtle intention is to prevent freedom of speech, then I don't support that part of it. It's not like I don't support the whole act or the whole bill. There are some parts of it that I don't support. That's one of them. Secondly, if you've not supported an industry,
now you just, let me tell you, sorry to cut you. The reason I say I don't support it, anything about it I don't support, I'll tell you why. The reason is, before you institute such an act, what is your contribution to the NGO? What is your contribution to the charity organization? That is my own. That is where I stand. That's why I say that if you are talking about America, London, I know all of these places. We have over 36 churches in the US. We have over 8 in London. I know the laws. I know how they work. Our churches, they are duly registered. I've been around the world by the grace of God, not to sound immodest or arrogant. You complained one time that it's like I live in the air. Nations that most people are talking, speaking against some of the things we say. They have been to conventional countries, America, Canada, London, Germany. We have been to certain nations, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Island. Some nations that are very, very, they are not too conventional. We know the laws that work in all of those places. My own take is, if you as a government want to do that, go the whole hog. Start giving grants, start giving support, start doing what these nations that regulate these bodies do. Me, I'll be the first person to come out and say, send Nigeria IROS into churches because we are funding them. Send Nigerian IROS into NGOs, charity organizations, because we are funding them. That is my own little restraint about it. That you are not funding these people. You are not giving them a dime. You are not putting anything into them. So what are you regulating? If you say there is a body that should control certain excesses, it can be discussed. It should be discussed. Sit down and discuss it. Because the truth is this: when you sign something into law, even the incoming government can abuse that law. They can abuse it. They can abuse it. So let's sit down and discuss it. We have a discussion on, okay, you are worried about the insensitivity of many clergy. You are worried about how they incite you are worried. So you want to institute a law. We will support you. We will say, okay, no problem. We will turn down the rhetorics. Bring the law so that we have something that guides us. That's something that we have a level of restraint where we are going all out emotionally. But when it's all about, you are changing this, I feel it's too draconian. You are changing this, you are removing this, you are bringing that. To me, you are sliding into dictatorship. And that is the part I'm not comfortable with, because it is almost anti-human. It's almost anti-leadership. That's my worry. That is my worry. Nobody spoke about karma before. Nobody said anything. Nobody. Until it was amended.
But it has been in existence all this while.
It has been in existence all this while. So now there was this clause is why everybody is shouting. There was no provision. Okay, there's no aspect of the law initially that says people can be called to order. No aspect of the law. People started reacting. That is why if you hear most people are talking now, nobody's talking about account or money. What they are saying is that, why do you want to change my board of trustees? What is your intention? Why do you want to put your people in my leadership?
What's the rationale behind it?
Yes, why do you want to put your people? Section 839 of the Act says that the registrar has the powers to regulate the body and suspend your board of trustees, and no court of law can upturn it. That is even an insult to the judiciary. So that is our problem. That's why we are angry. That's why we are saying this cannot happen and will not stand. That's what it is.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for coming on short notice. Okay. You have thrown a lot of light to this. I also use this as a medium to encourage other pastors to speak to us, the media, because sometimes there's a gap between the people or the secular people and the clergy. Those who go to church understand their pastors.
Yes, yes.
But a regular person on the street cannot relate to what the pastor is saying, so he has the tendency to make a judgment. So pastors should also reach out to us to sit down with us from time to time. Oh, I got a message, by the way, I said I was going to share this with you. But since we're here live, I might just discuss it. It's a Calvary greeting, sir. I'm a pastor. I'm the president of Association of Church Reputation Managers. I don't know if you've heard of that group, ACRM.
Okay.
And in view of the current circumstances, we'll be grateful if you can avail me your email address to deliver same to you. They wanted to send me. So now should not be the time when, okay, don't hang. Now let's speak to the media. We should have had a comfortable clergy, media, people relationship. And this is one thing why I value your friendship, for instance. I can reach you at any time of the day or night. I don't have to go to some people from pastors. Before you can reach them, you spend 1 week talking to one person who will schedule you with one PA, who will schedule, you go back and forth. At the end of the day, nobody is paying anybody's salary. You just get frustrated. And there's that gap. And it could work against the pastors sometimes. Because right now, the population is happy that this karma is going to stop pastors from buying private jets in their understanding of it.
So long as not church money, we will buy. We will still buy.
Do you understand?
So long as not church money.
And I would also say that let people understand. For instance, even I, up until today, did not know that you never collect 1 naira from the church.
No, I don't.
Most people will not know that. They don't have access to that information. So this information
is not, listen to me, the money is not enough. Let me give you a scenario. One time, the auditors found 40 million naira in the church account. They couldn't trace it. They traced the inflow from me. So I didn't state what it was for, because normally when I support them, I can say this is my support to the building. This is my support for this. So I didn't state it. The reason I didn't state it was because I discovered they were running at a deficit. Their expenditure was more than their income. The demands on them, every Sunday, there's a crowd. So I dropped in 40 million and I kept quiet. I didn't say anything about it. So my auditor now said to me that they are confused about the money. So I told him, I said, you are a bad auditor. Your concern should be when there is deficit, not when there is increase. If money comes in, that should not concern you. It's when money goes out, you should be worried. I said, so don't ask me, because it was a vow between me and God. I just felt led that I was going to support them, because I was pitting. They were complaining that there is nothing. Because I leave them to run it. I do not interfere. Just tell me what you want to do. You are giving this person, they say, go ahead. You are giving it, because the truth is this, why you must be transparent is that your accountant today can leave your church tomorrow. And when he leaves your church tomorrow, he will tongue lash you, call you a criminal, call you a thief. So never think he's going to be there. Anybody you deal with as a church office staff is going to be with you forever.
Even your assistant pastor can leave and go and set up his own church.
Exactly. So when he's talking out of hate, people can see it. But when he has reasonable, readily facts, people will also know. So it's better he leaves you and he's talking out of hate, out of animosity, than he leaves you and is giving obvious facts that proves that you are a criminal, you can't be trusted, you are two-faced. When he has all of that with salient points and he brings out evidences, that would nail you. So I have this consciousness that this guy that's working with me, that's smiling at me today, I have to be at my guard, because tomorrow this guy will come after me. So when they come, imagine somebody walking to my office and he wants to give me a check of, let's say, ₦1 million. He's asking me, sir, what name do I write? Don't you know my name? Don't you know the church name? Why are you trying to set me up? Why are you asking me what name do I write? You know my name. You know the church name. So I tell the person, put the church. Ah, sir, why don't I put your name? I say, put the church. Because you are trying to set me up. Some people send me messages and they tell me, please, sir, send your account number. You have been a blessing. We want to appreciate you. I don't send. I'll tell you the reason I don't send. When I send, we live in a generation of receipts. People keep receipts. By the time I send my number, you are going to come out and tell the world that I sent you an account number asking you for money. You are not going to tell them you requested for it. So the way I reply some of them that are even close to me, this I reply. I say, this is to acknowledge your text message asking for my account number. Here is it. So by the time you are showing
one today.
Yes. So by the time you are showing everybody, they will see in that message that you demanded for the account. Because this is a generation of receipts. So we have to be careful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. The video will be uploaded in a few minutes. Once again, thank you and regards to your family.
My regards. Great 8 bonds are the kid for me.
All right.